Welcome back to the EGC channel, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very special edition published by EGC. Right here, we have got the EGC Custom Match Show Match. I'm KillerPigeon, joined by Lidakor to break down the future of the road to Red Bull Wololo Legacy. Because Lidakor, today, we will be going through 5 custom maps to decide which ones we will be adding to the competitive scene for the road to Wololo.
Indeed, it's a really hype show match over here. We're going to be taking a look for a set in between LucifroN and Kasva, and we're opening the day with 4 lakes made by Bitterlin and Fano. You can see at the left side of the screen the overview of how the map looks like. It is a map that features 4 lakes, one in each corner, ton of fishing, a lot of dynamics between the water and land play. This is by far one of the most renowned Age of Empires 2 competitive maps ever, so I'm really curious to see how it works out in Age of Empires 4. But without further ado, let's jump straight into game number 1.
Oh, look at this beautiful beast. Oh, this is so refreshing, Lidakor, to actually be able to start assessing new maps and maybe looking at a more competitive future for the scene instead of just getting into Mongolian heights and crying about how one Mongol player lost instantly. I look forward to this.
Indeed, it looks like we do have a bit of a pause at the beginning over here because I'm hearing that our observer Vodka does have a bit of an issue with the mouse, but don't you guys worry, that probably just brings us back to the waiting screen here for a brief moment. But LucifroN versus Kasva over here looks like on the left side we'll have LucifroN spawning as the Rus in blue, and on the right side it is going to be Kasva playing as the Chinese. So let's talk a little bit about why these civilizations got picked for a map like this one, because as you pointed out, the built-in maps are fairly well explored. These are maps that have been played for months now, and the players know the meta on these, they know the civilization selections. But now we're looking at brand new maps, so what's the mindset behind picking the Rus and the Chinese on this map?
There's actually some interesting dynamics to keep in mind with 4 lakes. So the obvious thing, well, there's 4 lakes, right? So there's a lot of water. It's a water hybrid map, but it's not a water hybrid map in the sense of what we used to, right? Most of the maps that we see being used in competitive or that have been used in competitive lend themselves to more than just economical gains. There's a military exploitation. The interesting choice by these players to pick these 2 civs is that they're actually easily in the top 4 out of the 8 civs at utilizing the sea for gathering economically, because on one side you've got the Rus that don't have to ever go back home to drop off their fish, which is phenomenal. And then on the other side, the Chinese build up their ships quicker than any other civ, right? They get a 20% increase to their production rate. So I actually quite like the thought process already opening up from LucifroN and Kasva, where they're seeing these backwaters and they're realizing that like it kind of plays out similarly to Nagari minus the center lake.
Yeah, exactly. It's a slightly better version of Nagari in many ways. And there is a very interesting dynamic between the water and the land play over here, because you obviously want to do some fishing on your pond at the back, but you also have to be cautious about the fact that the opponent might try to sneak a dock up on your lake and just try to make some combat ships to hurt your fishing eco. In the meantime, you also want to expand towards the neutral lakes as well, but also put up some land aggression. So this is a very macro-focused map because combat and engagements might be happening at 4 or 5 different spots at the same time.
Absolutely. And the thing that I like already is if you actually look at the map, you can see there's a lot of wood that is actually being spawned towards the center. There's a good spread coming out. So it's not really this awkward situation that we sometimes get where there's a little bit too much ease of wood on these water hybrid maps. I feel like this map actually, like, big shout out to the content creator. I believe his name was Bidlin and Fano. They've done a great job of ensuring that you have to play forward of your save point to actually be able to exploit the economical resources on the lakes.
Indeed, and it looks like I see a mouse moving, so if all goes well, Vodka is back with us, his mouse might be fine, and we can finally start this game over here. At the top it says Grand Finals, but don't get confused by this one. We're taking a look at a 5-game set between these 2 players out there. It is primarily for us to take a look at the maps and see how they work in the hands of pro players, because no matter what we think about the maps, we need to make sure that they play out in an entertaining fashion in the hands of pro players to make sure that the entertainment is as good as it is possible to be achieved in Road to Wololo.
And we incentivize these players. We throw money at their face and say dance for us, right? We don't say come in on your break day off and play for free. No, they're actually competing. So although this is a lot of testing, there will be 5 games. Like whoever at the end of it has more is going to get a nice little lump sum in their pocket. So opening up, looks like straight away there is going to shift out to build up those docks, and you can see Kasva already being into the punchline, has enough wood to do so, and LucifroN's going to be slightly behind it. This is an important dynamic already. But something to keep in mind is that what we highlight at the beginning is one Civ builds faster on ships, the other one never has to come back. And if we look on the lakes, we can actually see that this balances out somewhat because there is a fair distance between the shoreline and the deep water fish in each of these corners.
Indeed. And one of the other things that you get with the Chinese is that you also build buildings faster. So you could see that on the right side, the Chinese player already has the dock finished, whereas on the other side, LucifroN is yet to finish his first dock over here. So you see that Kasva is going to have about a half a fishing ship advantage right at the beginning, and that's obviously going to be a nice boost to him. On the other hand, though, of course, LucifroN won't have to bring back the fish that he has gathered with the fishing ships to the dock, so the efficiency is also going to be on his side. Right now, looks like LucifroN is sitting at 155 bounty over here. Not a bad start, but this map doesn't have a ton of predators to take down, not a ton of deer to work with, so you can't really expect more than, like, let's say 250 bounty over here for yourself.
It comes down to wolf count, right? I'm not exactly sure how many there are, but like the other things are at least standardized. Looks like we've got the same amount of deer, same amount of boar, but it might be, yeah, we've got less wolves. I think we've all gotten used to seeing high view and how many you can spawn there and how easy it is. And in this game, LucifroN's not really getting it easy. Like we're almost 3 minutes in. He's only got 155 bounties so far. But one thing to keep in mind is like we've gotten used to seeing Roost players on land maps. And on land maps, they build a lot more scouts quickly because they have surplus food. But in this structure, once you're back on water hybrids, notice LucifroN is now about to be 3 minutes in the game, and he still only has 2 scouts and no hunting cabin because he needed that wood to buy into the dock and then the fishing boats.
Indeed, that is a very interesting dynamic to look at. And one of the things I like about Rus is that you essentially have to make a decision between going for a dock or you going for a hunting cabin. Now, most of the time, of course, that is the hunting cabin on land maps, but in hybrid maps like this one, if you go for a dock, you can't go for a hunting cabin, which means that you won't have more than 2 scouts. In fact, you get your second scout from your town center, just like any other civilization. So that's part of the reason why we're not seeing more scouts from LucifroN, but we are seeing a barracks here from Kasva. He might go pretty aggressive over here, pop out a couple of spearmen, and maybe even try to torch down the dock of LucifroN.
Yeah, so he's doing it to block the attack on his dock, and then he can go aggressive afterwards. I think this is just going to be defensive, though. Like, Kasva's logic is probably that I can build up faster than LucifroN, and it is somewhat true, right? There's a lot of economical benefits that the Chinese have to just sit back, not just the docks, but multi-TCs. And one thing I want to check on these initial spawns is, do we get straggler trees? Because I don't know about you, but when we opened up, and we do, when we opened up this map, the first vibes I was getting was something comparative to Black Forest, actually, right? This whole idea that these back lakes are always easily accessible. You'll always play to them. And one detail I'm intrigued to see if it comes into play, or if it's even going to matter because your woodlines are so close, is whether people have to go straggler trees. That's maybe something we'd have to do a lot of different generations on. But so far, it looks like the difference between this and Black Forest is that the start going onto lake should be quicker because the big fat tree line is close enough to your TC, whereas Black Forest in comparison, the efficient strategy was to actually take out the straggler trees because the dense forest was 1.5 miles away.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. And also, of course, with the Chinese, you also want to drop that lumber camp as soon as possible because you want to supervise it, make sure that your early food income is a little better as well. And honestly, seeing Chinese over here with all the bonuses they have, the building build speed, the fishing ship build speed, you know, more efficient lumberjacking with the Imperial officers, these actually add up very well, and it actually is very nice to see that Chinese is a reasonable and viable civilization for what is essentially an open land map style map in the middle, and you see there's already a villager moving up here. Actually, no, that's a spearman from Kasva, but is he being trailed by a villager? I swear I saw a villager there.
He could outpost block this, but like I don't think you need to because you're up against the Roost, right? So this is actually another reason why the Roost could be very powerful on this map, is that if a counterplay to this that we'd like to see, it's not just to torch the dock, but another really good play is to drop outposts next to these docks to try and then like spam them out when they return resources. You
But they don't return
damage, but yeah, exactly. There you go. You already know Lidakor. These boys never come back. They send it by carrier pigeon. The fish just arrive in your bank. So it's very hard to actually stop a Roost player unless you're willing to build onto their lake.
Indeed, and this is why I think that Kasva is probably thinking about that one. He has the military presence over here to escort the villager even. He's going to torch down the dock, and this is where it gets difficult to push the Roost, because even if you torch down that dock, even if you build up your own dock over here, it's still not going to be enough. And am I seeing Wait, that is a Lodya attack ship, but it's not being made on this dock. Where is it being made then?
Whoa, 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 whoa! He's not on the home field on the east side, on the east lake. It's hard to see because he's in blue. They always are so
Oh,
stealthy.
there we go.
He's stuck on. Now, Kasva, it's not the end of the world because you're the Chinese, so you will build the counter vessel 20% faster, and he has moved on the Northern Lake. But it's still going to be really frustrating to have to compete with this because if you look at the cost of junks and look at the cost of lodges, like it's more efficient usually for the Roost player to do this early on.
Yeah, you see that both players are also expanding towards the other docks as well, and this is where that dynamic comes into play. Suddenly, we're at minute 7, and you might be seeing water engagements on 3 ponds, and there's of course a possibility for land engagements as well, because Kasva is now torching down the excess of gold of LucifroN, and that is actually concerning because it's going to make it much more difficult for LucifroN to add further combat vessels.
So something I'm kind of sitting here thinking about, actually, Lidakor, is like, now that they've seen the way this map generates, if they could re-roll their civs, would they pick the same, or would someone pick the deli?
Ooh. I don't...
There's a lot of berries. There is a lot of berries in your base. Like,
What
especially look south of LucifroN's base. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, a little bit south at the coast. There it is.
Ooh, look at that.
My God.
Honestly,
You know,
or even if Abbasids. They do have the cheaper docks working for you, so that's something that you can consider. Here come the Lodya attack ships, and as you see, Kasva will try to save his fishing eco, but only 3 fishing ships can garrison inside the dock, so he's going to lose quite a lot. Right now, eco numbers are very even, but that will soon change. Kasva just splitting up, trying to buy himself some time over here.
Yeah, but like he can't get the counter out really quick enough before the damage is done. So I think it would be better to just focus on now, returning the favor. All right, Lannisters send their regards moment because you're kind of done on this corner. So now you need to equal it out and be happy that you've already structured to the north side. And it's actually interesting because I think another thing that makes this specific matchup quite peculiar. We talked about some of the nuances on both sides, but something that both mutually benefit from is the 20% additional wood drop-off. They both have access to this. So it means that in terms of the race for this naval war, the thing that probably is going to matter more if you don't harass each other's eco directly is going to be the fact that China builds their ships 20% faster.
Yeah, that could be a factor, but what else could be a factor here? It is the resource bank of LucifroN. He's sitting on 1,400 food with 300 gold in the bank. Of course, using the Golden Gate, he can balance it out. And he can go to Castle Age, but this is where one of the weaknesses of the Rus could show. They don't have that attack ship class unit. They only have arrow ships, that is the Lodya attack ship, and they only have demolition ships. So it's not like they are, let's say, the Chinese, which can just pop out of war junk and dominate the seas. They can just continue to go with these Lodya attack ships. The only thing that they get is some good upgrades for them. So probably for the Rus over here, that Castle Age power spike is not as big as it could be for other civilizations.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the dynamics of this water hybrid map are different to what we're used to seeing, right? In most water hybrid maps, if you take control of the water, if you think like Warren Islands, oh god, if you took control of the water, GG. Mongolian Heights, you take control of the water, you control the choke point, the pass points, right, across the map. Any map that you can think of that we've been seeing competitive play, water tends to play an aggressive role in terms of territorial control. Well, it's only economical control on this map. You can build up the fleet in this little paddle. What's the one over? Paddle pool over here. Words. But like, what does it do? Like, it stops fishing, but that's it. It literally does nothing else. So it's actually really interesting to think about this. Like, economically, that's the importance of the corners, which means that now LucifroN, as he techs up, can just go full land aggression.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You see, he went with the Abbey at the bottom left. You can see a warrior monk being queued up, so he's working out towards those relics. Kasva actually tried to tower his access to gold, and Kasvos is a pond on the lake of LucifroN here. So we could see some combat ships now pushing LucifroN, and I don't envy Vodka right now, him being our observer today, because observing this map is very difficult. You see so much chaos going on. At 10 minutes into the game, we already have engagements taking place at 4 or 5 different locations.
So, Lidakor, like, I'm glad you mentioned the outpost because I spent quite a lot of my last stream casting Kasva. And I've got to say, I think 10 minutes to go for outpost rush is a little bit late by his standards. Usually this guy has about 10 around your base by this point in. He's even been able to beat the likes of Marine Lord by doing this type of strategy, even when he's playing as a Civ like Ruse. So I feel weird to not see a bigger commitment to the sturdy defenses from Kasva. This is what happens when you take him back to water hybrid maps.
It looks like we have a dock on the northern side now as well by LucifroN. The right-hand side lake was lost by Kasva for the time being. Northern side is gonna get contested, but here comes Kaz with some aggression, and LucifroN doesn't have a standing army on the battlefield right now. This is the timing dynamic of this map, because the initial battles, they always take place on the water. But if you can switch it up and be the first one to put out the standing army on land, you can easily surprise your opponent like this.
Yeah, and he's definitely surprised. He didn't even react straight away. He finally pulls back. There's 1 or 2 villages for his trouble. He's trying to get the initial horse archers out, but he's already discounted. Like, Kasva's showing you the power of the Chinese. We're in a game. We live in a world, all right? Rule by rules in Age of Empires 4. The king of rules, counters matter. And to counter, you have to transition. Transitions can be incredibly uncomfortable in Age of Empires 4, in any RTS. But you know what Civ can do them more easily than most? It's the Chinese, because of the supervision of the Imperial officials. He was able to instantly sidestep into the horsemen and get a counter prepped before LucifroN could reach a critical mass of horse archers to hold.
I love this one, and honestly it's very nice to see that the Chinese are being used in a different way than usual. Sure thing, you have Song Dynasty, but it is not that eco-juggernaut, it's not that late-game juggernaut Chinese we're seeing over here. It's that early-game prowess that we are seeing, fueled partially by that fishing economy. And as you said, the adaptivity of the Chinese, the ability to react fast to any kind of aggression or any kind of unit composition is something that's showing over here. This being said, Kasva is still stuck in Feudal Age. And one of the things that you have to consider on this map is that you're basing your entire food eco on fish. So you lose access to it, suddenly you have no food eco. It's actually very reminiscent of what would happen if you, let's say, run out of sheep and deer on a map like Arabia. Suddenly you have to start thinking about farming. It's actually very comparable here. Just the fact is that we, instead of adding farms, would move the villagers to hunt or berries instead of just having fishing eco fuel your food eco.
And this is where one player is starting to fall heavily behind. Like, the issue that Kasva has is the junks are kind of appropriately named in this matchup. They can't really compare to a lot of your attack ships, especially when you start getting your hands on the blacksmith, right? And you get into that early upgrade, you add an extra 5 damage into the output of each of these Russian attack vessels. Like, it's almost impossible to deal with, and it's why it doesn't matter what lake you look at, Kasva's losing. Find me a lake he's won on. Find me a lake he's existing truly on, because it doesn't exist anymore.
And this is why, you know, being stuck in Feudal Age hurts so much, because if he was in Castle Age, he could go for War Junks, and those would actually dominate those low attack ships. Kasva actually added a second town center over here, so he's shifting fully into that land gameplay, which could still, to a certain extent, buffer him up. Keep in mind that those spawns, they will start running low on fish soon. Well, not that soon, to be honest. But that is a factor to consider for LucifroN.
Yeah, you have to remember that these are deep water fish, right? So they slowly do regenerate. Over time, it has been nerfed time and time again because it's just been so powerful. But you're seeing just how powerful it still remains. Kasva, like, he's keeping the horseman push going, but he's struggling to stabilize his eco. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is he switching onto land? He has, right? He's got multi-TCs, which makes sense in this situation. Like, you can't win on water at all. So you just need to rely on the boom that you have via Song Dynasty as the Chinese.
And the other thing that you can do is contest those lakes. Sure thing, you won't have your own fishing eco, but one thing that you can accomplish is make sure that the Rus player doesn't have his own fishing eco either. If you can contest these lakes, you can force LucifroN to invest into a bunch of combat ships just to save his fishing eco. And if you look at the big picture, that is the overall eco count or worker count, it's 60 to 54, so it's not actually that bad for Kasva, although those numbers will change a little bit with those horse archers coming in.
And also with the relics being gathered up, because this is the other problem with Kasva. This can be kind of the weakness, like the Chinese aren't really used to playing these water maps this way, right? Like, usually you still go for a quick castle, you grab the relics, you have 2 or 3 TCs, but you think about the structure for Kasva, it's all delayed. And now Kasva, he's looking to yoink the deer to keep his eco alive, and he's getting all on aggressive. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks like the beginning of a castle play, but folks, you need to reach castle first, and you need to get the stone together. Instead, it is solely going to be outpost. Kasva, we mentioned he was below his quota, so he tries to fix that with a large force of villagers on the front line.
He's playing for wood control over here because, you see, LucifroN doesn't have plenty of wood to access. He's running out of this forest, and everything else is essentially to the south or the front. So if he can maintain pressure over here, he could cut off LucifroN from wood, and Everything that the Rus want to do involves wood. I just don't think Kasva has the numbers here.
No, I like this idea if your opponent is still not castle. But your opponent is castle with a siege workshop and a trebuchet, which means that this is going to amount to nothing. And even if it held here, like, look to the south wood line hasn't been fully enclosed yet. So, like, there's still options for LucifroN if he somehow did get pushed off this. So, overall, just a very delayed play by Kasva. It feels like he's stuck in a reactionary phase where it kind of sounds like if I was running a business, where my approach would probably be, let's just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
I mean, he's trying to buy himself time, though. That is something that we gotta appreciate here, because these towers, these are buying him time to really capitalize on that 2TC Song Dynasty play, because let's keep in mind, he's on 2TCs and Song Dynasty. We have seen the power of that. And with the Chinese, now your option is to drag this game out, go for that more late game stage. The problem is that he still needs to find his way up to Castle Age, and that might come right now because he's banking up resources for Castle.
The interesting thing is you have to think about what your win condition is, right? So, like, the win condition for Kasva in this isn't even Castle. He needs to get all the way to Imperial. And the thing that I'm always weary of when I see these type of plays, like, when you're spamming outposts like this, it's like, ah, yes, you know, it's distracting him, it's getting him up. It's like, yeah, but while you're keeping him locked in, like, are you killing his units or is LucifroN building a bigger army? We can see if the count is going up. The military count continues to increase. And the problem with that is it's like, think about when you boil water. Water doesn't look very threatening at first, but as I apply heat and I keep it contained, the bubbles start to go, it starts to look more aggressive. It starts to flood out, and before you know it, I need to replace all my units because I've got water damage everywhere. That's what's going to happen here. After a while, LucifroN is going to boil and rupture out, and Kasva is going to get burnt.
Well, Kasva, it looks like he's finding a way into Castle Age here. He does have a respectable amount of horsemen over here, but as you pointed out, that water is getting closer and closer to boiling, because LucifroN, he's gonna be up to 5 relics, and he's got 51 military numbers overall, though, truth be told, most of them are actually in the form of combat ships. So when you look at the top of the screen, we also have to keep in mind that these numbers for military numbers, these are not the same as you would have on open land maps, because some of those military will be in the form of ships. But still, respectable army over here. 6 knights, 18 horse archers.
So much for building up that eco, leads. It seems they are in the wrong place at the wrong time. They'll go for the garrison and instantly the trebuchet to the face. The timing couldn't have been worse.
At least you tried.
All right, let's spin this up because this is looking like we're heading to a LucifroN rush. Let's go back to those berries on the south side because I just realized they're actually a really good, is it called a Rorschach test, I believe? So the berries on the south side, so, okay, so if you're not familiar with Rorschach test, the way this works is like you say what you see, your Rorschach test. So if you look there and look at the berries, tell me what you see when Vodka shows you the berries.
Delhi. I see Delhi.
I see a demon that is probably a Delhi spirit. And I'm sure there's some people that need to get their mind out the gutter. I'm pretty sure when Pesty watches this one back, his heart's going to be going because there's so many other things we could have said. Instead, let's focus on the horses because they are roaming in different directions. However, the impact of LucifroN's army might be a lot higher here.
This is tricky because Kasva now has access to the war junks, so he can slowly start contesting those pawns. But now he needs to deal with this army here. I feel like the land lead for LucifroN has just grown too big here. If you can somehow stop this army, if you're Kasva, you still have a shot at this, but you somehow have to clean this up without taking major economical losses.
And I don't even want to look at that raid. This one's a lot more impressive. Like, this is going to do some serious damage. I mean, Kasva's already taken an eco dent. Think idle eco as well. A big chunk of his is doing absolutely nothing, and it's about to get even more dicey. Like, these horsemen, they chip away at 1 or 2 max, and then they'll be picked apart. A few knights at this choke point will stop you engaging the horse archers. Army's going to be wiped. And the prowl continues, and this keep, there's not enough room in this inn. Some villagers are going to be going down. The trebuchets are already targeting the keep. And he's stuck here. That is almost half
he's
of
stuck.
Kasva's eco. Oh, God.
Oh, no, he's pulling the villagers.
Yeah, but is he pulling them for food or torching? I don't think he knows what to do with them anymore. He's trying to formation shovel them out the other side of the keep. But the keep isn't lasting any longer. You aren't repairing it. You can't afford to. Horse archers and knights are going to reign supreme here. Like, Kasva, I think you're lost now. You have no way back. Look at his food. No reserves, no income. Idle eco everywhere. And the raids never stop.
The war chunks just came in too late. Like, by the time he could start contesting the water control, it's gonna be too late. He might torch down the trebuchets, but that castle doesn't have boiling oil. It's gonna get trapped down or burned down by a couple of knights here. Actually? Actually?
I'm not gonna bait us like that. It's done. There's no way you can protect this because the horse archer's been killing him off. He's gonna try to stabilize, but really we have to think about what's coming next. Look at the military count. Kasva got 2 war junks. Check what a war junk costs you, and then think about what that would have added up to for more horsemen. It matters here because there's 10 knights and 16 horse archers still in the field for LucifroN. But these war junks, they cost over 500 resources each.
But the demolition ships, these are not cheap either, and they're getting picked apart here. And one thing that we have neglected is that a couple of minutes ago, LucifroN was up to like 80-something eco. He's down to 70, so he's losing water control. Sure enough, Kasva's behind, and I think his position is still really bad here, especially given that he's up against 5 relics. But if LucifroN doesn't finish the game, I get the fear that Kasva, if he recovers water control, there might be a glimpse of hope for him. We have seen recoveries like that in AoE 2 on this map before.
I like that you're a believer, but my problem with getting on board with it right now is Kasva's going to be raided on his wood line again. Now, if he had like 5 minutes of idle time, I agree, right? He controls all the waterfronts, he gets the fishing fleet back up, he's solid. How's he going to afford that fishing fleet when knights keep diving his wood lines?
That's my concern
that's where
too.
I struggle to see a way. Yeah, and look at where the wood line is now. He's moved it closer to the front line. So LucifroN just gets all the freebies. Moves in, snipes out several more villages, and Kasva's about to go down to the 0 income in the wood department again.
And one of the things I love about this map is that your wood is on the front, so you have to fight for it. It's not like you just camp and, turtle up, focus on the water. You have to fight for your wood. And as you pointed out, right now Kasva is struggling to just maintain access to wood, and now food eco is gonna get raided too.
Oh god! I mean, like, does it feel doubly bad to lose your food workers? Like, you lose this unit and you need more food to replace it, and they're not getting you food anymore. It feels so much worse, and it's looking worse and worse the longer we watch this for Kasva. Like, the point of recovery is very difficult to find because LucifroN has his production rates always maintained. Like, his eco on land is decent. Yes, you go to the fishing fleet, but he bolstered on land. Right, think about this logically. He went for a secondary TC, but even before that, he got 5 relics. LucifroN got all 5 relics on this map. So Kasva is just being doubled up in the eco department, tripled up in fact here, despite how close the villager numbers did look a minute or 2 ago.
And relics are the safest eco in this map that's available, if you think about that. The fish, these can be pressured with combat ships and forward docks. Your wood eco, your food eco, these can be raided by knights, but the relics, your opponent cannot do anything about it, and that's one of the strengths of the Rus over here on this map. You can easily pick those relics up, and now part of your eco is very safe, and that's a ton of gold to work with.
And what I love is the relic spawns were actually really balanced from what I saw. They were all kind of centralized down the line, so looks like the generation's been done pretty damn well by the creator for this. And another cool thing I love is this central stealth forest that we're kind of used to seeing on Lipany. I love the way LucifroN used it. LucifroN hid his TC in it. So Kasva doesn't even have the information feedback. Like, he's probably sniped out all the corner lakes, and he feels good even after the raids. He's like, things are bad, but like, the whole house isn't on fire. It's just like the guest bedroom. Little does he know that little LucifroN has been running around with a pitcher of oil in one hand and matches in the other, and he's ready to set the whole damn house on fire.
Yeah, he's doing that just now. Trebuchet is hiding in the stealth forest as well. The entire army was hiding in the stealth forest, so Kasva didn't even know what he's up against. And when they show up, when all those knights come in, the horse archers come in, Kasva has no tools to stop this. He's got one nest of bees. That's the only army he has on the field.
To be or not to be, that is the question, and the answer is Kasva, get out of LucifroN's game. This one is all his now. The torches coming in on the outpost. The Springles have been trying to stabilize him, but the dives are coming in. The cavalry count is always increasing, and GG is going to get called. LucifroN takes map 1.
Good game gets called indeed. We have essentially received what we expected from this map. This very interesting water dynamic or hybrid map dynamic that we didn't really see from the built-in maps in Age of Empires 4, where, as you pointed out, gaining water control is not a way to gain map control for yourself. It's more about boosting your eco, and because you have such a massive eco boost at the beginning, the game accelerates quite a bit compared to what you would see on, let's say, standard land maps or like the original built-in hybrid maps. So that escalation, like you see, we have taken a look at a 25-minute game where the players are like 160 population, 100 eco, 60 army after all that fighting. The game escalates really fast. I think it is a very macro heavy map as well because you do have a lot of engagements to keep track of at the same time. But of course, we are not all knowing, we're not all seeing. So I think if you have any feedback in the YouTube comment section, this is a great way to, let us know what you think about the game that you have seen, what you think about the map, because obviously we will try to consider the entertainment of the audience as our number one priority when it comes to selecting maps for the upcoming rounds of Road to Wololo.
Yeah, we want a nice balance between what the players want to see and what the viewers want to see. We want to move past these maps that I think the biggest goal like the Game Month inspired this was like watching maps where nothing moves for an hour can be kind of annoying because it kind of looks like you can't see a way forward, and a lot of players kind of struggle to, and it turns into a resource slog. And that's why I like this as an opening map where the resources are condensed to the center. Another thing to point out, like we're giving credit to the concept to the creators of these maps. So once again, just big shout out to the creator of this map, which was Bidolin and Fano. Really amazing job they done with 4 lakes, and you can check this one out yourself in game. And another little thing to point out, when we do this type of events, we do like to reward the people. So not only will we get credit if you create more maps that we check in the future, but we are going to be giving $50 to anyone whose maps do get selected for use in the Road to Wololo. So we're looking to reward where we can, and we want to not only get your participation in creating maps, but also the feedback on the ones you guys see.
Indeed, and with that, game number 1 ends, but make sure that you check out the other games that we're also going to publish here on YouTube because we have 4 more custom maps coming up. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.